Welcome to Anusondhan. Today our discussion topic is world creation myths, Egyptian, Norse, Mayan, Aboriginal, and more. What if everything you thought you knew about creation was just one tiny piece of a much larger, wilder puzzle? Beyond the familiar tales of Genesis, ancient civilizations spun incredible sagas of cosmic eggs, primordial giants, and divine blacksmiths forging the very stars. Prepare to have your understanding of existence reshaped. You know the story. A divine word, a garden, and the beginning of all things. But what if that's just one version? Across forgotten scrolls and whispered legends, humanity has devised hundreds of wildly different, equally profound origins for our universe. Get ready to journey into the untold stories of creation. Stop scrolling. For centuries, one creation story has dominated the Western world, but what about the countless others? From the icy chasms of Norse myth to the fiery births of Hindu cosmogony, this video dives into the forgotten creation narratives that will fundamentally alter how you see the universe's birth. Beyond Genesis, forgotten creation myths explored. Welcome. Today, we're embarking on a journey into humanity's oldest and most mysterious question. Where did we come from? How was the universe created? And what is the meaning of our existence? In the Western world, we're all familiar with the Genesis story. Creation in 6 days, rest on the seventh, Adam and Eve, the Garden of Eden. This narrative is deeply embedded in our cultural consciousness. But it's just one story. Around the world for thousands of years, humans have woven their own creation narratives, each a unique reflection of their environment, their values, and their worldview. Today, we'll explore these forgotten tales. From the epic battles of Mesopotamia to the rhythmic creation of Africa, from the giant eggs of China to the dreamtime of Australia, each myth offers us a window into the extraordinary richness and diversity of human imagination. So let's begin this extraordinary journey. The dominance of one narrative. When we hear the word creation, most people immediately picture the book of Genesis. God speaks into the darkness, "Let there be light," and there is light. It's a powerful, beautiful, and simple narrative that forms the foundation of Western civilization. But here's a startling truth. There are nearly 8 billion people living on Earth, and throughout history, thousands of cultures have existed. All these people, all these cultures have sought their own answers to the question of the universe's origin. What are the odds that there's only one creation story? Nearly zero. Yet modern education systems and media often ignore this vast diversity. Why we need multiple narratives. Every creation myth is not just a story. It's a reflection of a culture's philosophy, their natural environment, their social structure, and their deepest values. People living in deserts see water as the source of life. So in their creation myths, the primordial ocean plays a central role. Agricultural societies create stories about seeds, crops, and cycles of regeneration. Warrior societies explain creation through cosmic battles and heroism. This diversity isn't just fascinating, it's essential. It shows us how limitless human imagination can be, and how the same fundamental question can produce different answers, each true and meaningful in its own way. The purpose of this journey. In today's video, we'll explore creation myths from different corners of the world. We'll see how Mesopotamian people believed the universe was born from cosmic warfare, how Egyptians thought the sun god created himself from nothing, how the African Mande people believed the universe emerged from sound vibrations. By the end of this journey, you won't just know many fascinating stories. You'll understand how these myths attempt to answer humanity's deepest questions about existence. And perhaps you'll be inspired to ask new questions about your own existence. So let's begin. Mesopotamia, the Enuma Elish. Our journey begins where written civilization was born, Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq. In this fertile land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, approximately 4,000 years ago, the Babylonians wrote their creation epic, the Enuma Elish. Enuma Elish means when on high, and this is how the epic begins. When on high the heaven had not been named, firm ground below had not been called by name, naught but primordial Apsu, their begetter, and Mummu Tiamat, she who bore them all. In this epic, at the beginning of creation were two ancient deities, Apsu, the god of fresh water, and Tiamat, the goddess of salt water. Their waters mingled and gave birth to the first generation of gods. But here comes the fascinating twist. The younger gods became extremely noisy, and Apsu decided to destroy them. However, the wise god killed Apsu first. The enraged Tiamat created a vast army of monstrous creatures to take revenge. Enter our hero Marduk, the storm god, who defeats Tiamat in battle. Marduk splits Tiamat's body in two. From one half he creates the sky, from the other the earth. From her eyes flow the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. And humanity. Marduk creates humans from the blood of Kingu, Tiamat's ally and rebellious god, to serve the gods. What this myth reveals. What does the Enuma Elish tell us about the Babylonian worldview? First, the universe is not a peaceful creation. It's born from violence and conflict. This reflects the reality of Mesopotamia, a region constantly facing floods, wars, and natural disasters. Second, Babylon's chief god Marduk plays the central role. This supports Babylon's political power. The king is Marduk's representative on earth. Third, humanity's purpose is clear: to serve the gods. This reflects a society where labor, temples, and hierarchy played central roles. Ancient Egypt, the cycle of Ra. Now we journey west, to the banks of the Nile, ancient Egypt. Egyptian creation myths are completely different from the Babylonian ones, because the nature of Egyptian civilization was different. Egyptian cosmogony is quite complex because different cities and different temples had their own versions. But certain common elements are found everywhere. The primeval waters, none. Before creation, everything was non-primordial, dark, chaotic water. This water was completely still, formless, full of potential but nothing yet manifested. From this water rises the first land, the Ben, the primordial mound. And upon this mound appears Atum, or Ra, the sun god. Self-creation of Atum Ra. The most fascinating aspect of Egyptian myth is Adam's self-creation. There was no father or mother. He created himself from himself. Some texts say he spoke his own name and came into being. Then Adam, alone and the only being, began creation. In some versions, he sneezed or spat and created Shu air and Tefnut moisture. From Shu and Tefnut were born Jeb earth and Nut sky. Initially, Jeb and Nut were united. Their father Shu separated them, lifting the sky high and holding it there. From Jeb and Nut were born four important gods: Osiris, Isis, Set, and Nephthys. This ennead of Heliopolis' 9 gods formed the foundation of the Egyptian pantheon. The daily cycle of creation. For the Egyptians, creation wasn't a one-time event, it repeated daily. Every day, Ra would cross the sky in his sun boat. In the evening, he would enter the underworld and journey through darkness, battling the chaos serpent Apophis. Every morning, Ra would be reborn and rise on the eastern horizon, a daily renewal of creation. This cyclical concept was central to Egyptian thought. What this myth reveals. What does the Egyptian myth reveal? First, the importance of stability and order. Ma'at, truth, justice, order, and cosmic balance was the foundation of Egyptian civilization. Creation had to be maintained constantly against the forces of chaos. Second, the sun's central role reflects Egypt's reality, a land where the sun dominated life, where the annual flooding of the Nile determined survival. The sun's daily journey mirrored the cosmic order. Third, self-creation suggests ultimate divine power. Adam-Ra needed no parent, no predecessor. He was self-sufficient, eternal, the first cause. Fourth, the cyclical nature reflected Egyptian views of time and existence. Death wasn't an ending but a transformation. The pharaoh would join Ra's journey, be reborn like the sun. Norse mythology, Ginnungagap and the World Tree. Now we travel far north, to the frozen lands of Scandinavia, where Viking warriors told tales around fire pits about the birth of the 9 worlds. Norse cosmogony begins not with water but with ice and fire, a fitting beginning for people who lived in one of Earth's harshest climates. The primordial void, Ginnungagap. In the beginning was Ginnungagap, the yawning void, the gap between gaps. This wasn't mere emptiness. It was a space of potential, pregnant with possibility. To the north of Ginnungagap lay Niflheim, the realm of ice, fog, and cold. To the south lay Muspelheim, the realm of fire, heat, and flames. From the 11 rivers of Niflheim flowed frozen venom that filled Ginnungagap. When the heat from Muspelheim met the ice from Niflheim, the ice began to melt. From the melting ice emerged Ymir, the first being, a giant of colossal proportions. The birth of gods and giants. As Ymir slept, he sweated. From the sweat under his left arm emerged a male and female giant. His legs bred with each other and produced a 6-headed son. Thus began the race of frost giants. Meanwhile, from the melting ice also emerged Audhumbla, a cosmic cow. Ymir drank her milk for nourishment. Audhumbla licked the salty ice blocks for sustenance, and as she licked, she freed Beri, the first god. Beri had a son named Bor who married Bisla, a giantess. They had 3 sons, Odin, Vili, and Ve, the first of the Aesir gods. The creation from Ymir's body. The sons of Bor killed the giant Ymir. From his body they created the world. From his flesh they made the earth. From his blood the seas and lakes. From his bones the mountains. From his teeth rocks and pebbles. From his hair trees and vegetation. From his skull the sky, held up at 4 corners by 4 dwarves. From his brains the clouds. From his eyebrows they created Midgard, the realm of humans, as protection against the giants. The maggots that fed on Ymir's corpse became the dwarves, who lived beneath the earth and in stones. The world tree, Yggdrasil. At the center of Norse cosmology stands Yggdrasil, the immense ash tree that connects all 9 worlds. Its roots extend into 3 wells. The well of Urd, fate, tended by the 3 Norns who weave destiny. The well of Mimir, wisdom, guarded by the wise being Mimir. Virgilmir, the roaring cauldron, source of many rivers. The tree is constantly threatened. A great dragon named Nidhogg gnaws at its roots. 4 stags eat its leaves. Yet the tree endures, and an eagle sits at its top, with a hawk perched between its eyes. The creation of humans. Walking along a beach one day, Odin, Vili, and Ve found 2 trees, an ash and an elm. From these, they created the first humans. Odin gave them life and spirit. Vili gave them reason and movement. Ve gave them faces, speech, hearing, and sight. The man was named Ask, ash tree, and the woman Embla, elm tree. They became the ancestors of all humanity, dwelling in Midgard. What Norse myth reveals? The Norse creation myth reveals a worldview shaped by harsh climate and constant struggle. First, violence and sacrifice are central. Creation requires death. Ymir must die for the world to exist. This reflects Viking culture where battle, sacrifice, and struggle were honored. Second, the universe is temporary and doomed. Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods, is foretold. Even the gods will die. This fatalism reflects the precarious existence of Norse peoples. Third, there's no absolute good or evil. Giants aren't inherently evil, gods marry them, and Odin's mother was a giantess. The world is complex, morally ambiguous. Fourth, wisdom and poetry are treasured. Odin sacrifices an eye for wisdom, hangs on Yggdrasil for 9 days to gain knowledge of runes. In a warrior culture, the Norse surprisingly valued knowledge as much as strength. The Mande creation, Mangala and the cosmic egg. Now we journey to West Africa, to the Mande people, including the Bambara, Malinke, and Dula. Their creation myth offers one of the most sophisticated and philosophically rich cosmogonies in human culture. The beginning, the void. In the beginning, there was nothing but Gla, emptiness, the void. Within this void existed Mangala, also called Bemba, the creator god, who existed before all things. Mangala was alone in the void, and within himself, he created the seed of all things, the smallest seed, which contained the blueprint of everything that would ever exist. The cosmic egg. Mangala created the egg of the world, a cosmic egg containing the universe in potential. This egg contained 266 signs, which would become the foundation of all things. These signs represented every possibility, every creature, every element. But the egg also contained a contradiction, a duality, the principle of Pemba and Pharaoh, representing disorder and order, the wild and the civilized, chaos and structure. Pemba's rebellion. Pemba, impatient and ambitious, broke out of the cosmic egg before completion. This premature birth was the first act of rebellion, the first sin. Pemba descended and created the earth, but it was a dry, barren earth because he had acted without completing the cosmic plan. Pemba tried to return to heaven to find his female twin and create life, but he was rejected. He had violated the cosmic order. His punishment was to remain on earth as the chaos principle. Pharaoh the Redeemer. Mangala then sent Pharaoh, the water spirit, the principle of order and fertility. Pharaoh descended to earth in an ark, bringing the waters that would make the earth fertile, the ancestors of all living things, the knowledge of agriculture, metallurgy and civilization, the sacred word that organizes reality. Pharaoh sacrificed himself to purify the earth from Pemba's chaos. His blood became the waters of the earth, rivers, lakes, and rain. He was resurrected by Mangala, establishing the principle of death and rebirth. The power of the word. A distinctive feature of Mande cosmogony is the central role of sound and speech. Creation happens through vibration, through the spoken word. Before things exist physically, they exist as sounds, as words spoken by the Creator. The blacksmith god, using his hammer and anvil, creates rhythm, the fundamental vibration of the universe. Every strike of the hammer reinforces creation, maintains order, and holds back chaos. Human beings received the gift of speech so they could participate in creation. To speak is to create. To name something is to bring it into being. This is why in Mande culture, griots, oral historians, hold such power. They are custodians of the creative word. What Mande myth reveals. The Mande creation myth reveals deep philosophical sophistication. First, duality is built into existence. Order and chaos, Pharaoh and Pemba, civilization and wilderness. These aren't enemies to be eliminated but complementary forces to be balanced. Second, sacrifice is transformative. Pharaoh's self-sacrifice doesn't end in death, but in resurrection and renewal. This reflects West African agricultural cycles and the understanding that life comes from death. Third, knowledge is sacred technology. The blacksmith, who knows the secrets of transforming ore into tools, is a quasi-divine figure. Technology and spirituality aren't separate but intertwined. Fourth, sound and speech are creative forces. This oral culture understood that language doesn't just describe reality, it shapes it. To speak properly is to participate in cosmic order. The Americas, Popol Vuh and the Maya creation. Let's cross the Atlantic to Mesoamerica, to the Maya civilization. The Popol Vuh, the Book of the People, is one of the most important surviving texts of pre-Columbian America, recorded in the 16th century but preserving ancient traditions. Multiple attempts at creation. Unlike many creation myths that describe a single act of creation, the Popol Vuh describes multiple failed attempts. The gods are experimenting, learning, perfecting their craft. In the beginning, there was only the sky and the sea. Between them was the heart of sky Huracan, the storm god and the plumed serpent. These gods came together and spoke, "Earth," and the earth emerged from the waters. But empty earth wasn't enough. The gods wanted beings to worship them, to speak their names, to keep time and honor the calendar. The first attempt, animals. The gods created animals, birds, deer, jaguars, serpents, but the animals could only squawk, roar, and hiss. They couldn't speak the gods' names. This was a failure. The gods condemned the animals to be hunted and eaten. Their flesh would serve future humans. The second attempt, mud people. Next, the gods shaped people from mud and clay. But these beings were too soft. They crumbled and dissolved in water. They couldn't hold their shape, couldn't move properly, and couldn't speak clearly. The gods destroyed them and tried again. The third attempt, wood people. The gods carved people from wood. These were better. They looked like people, moved like people, multiplied and spread across the earth. But they had no hearts, no minds, no souls. They walked without purpose, spoke without meaning. They didn't remember their creators, didn't honor the gods, didn't keep the sacred calendar. The gods sent a great flood. The animals turned against the wood people, attacking them. Even their tools rebelled. Grinding stones crushed them, cooking pots burned them, dogs bit them. The survivors fled into the forests and became monkeys, a warning of what happens when beings forget the divine. The fourth attempt, maize people. Finally, the gods discovered the right substance, maize corn. 4 animals, fox, coyote, parrot, and crow, brought the gods to the mountain where maize grew. The gods ground the white and yellow corn, mixed it with water, and shaped 4 men. Balamquitse, jaguar quitsi. Balamacab, jaguar night. Masukuta, not right now. Ikibalam, moon jaguar. These men were perfect, perhaps too perfect. They could see everything, understand everything, know everything. Their vision reached across time and space. The gods became worried. If humans were as powerful as gods, what would distinguish divinity? So the heart of sky breathed mist onto the men's eyes, limiting their vision to what was near and immediate. Then the gods created 4 women as companions, and from these 4 couples descended all of humanity. The hero twins. The Popol Vuh also contains the story of the hero twins, Hunahpu and Xbalanque, who journey to the underworld, Xibalba, defeat the lords of death through cleverness, and are transformed into the sun and moon. This myth establishes the cosmic order, the movement of celestial bodies, the cycle of day and night, the victory of life over death. What Maya myth reveals. The Popol Vuh reveals Maya worldview in several ways. First, creation is a process of refinement. The gods aren't omniscient. They try, fail, and try again. This suggests a dynamic, evolving cosmos rather than static perfection. Second, humans are fundamentally made of corn. This isn't metaphorical. The Maya saw themselves as literally corn people. Corn cultivation was their civilization's foundation, and this is encoded in their origin story. Third, the purpose of humanity is reciprocal relationship with the divine. Humans must remember, honor, and sustain the gods through ritual. The gods need humans as much as humans need gods. Fourth, knowledge has limits. The gods deliberately limited human vision. Perfect knowledge might be divine, but limited knowledge is human, and this limitation is part of our proper place in the cosmos. Aboriginal Dreamtime, the songlines of creation. Now we journey to the oldest continuous culture on Earth, the Aboriginal peoples of Australia, whose traditions stretch back over 65,000 years. Aboriginal creation stories, collectively called the Dreamtime or dreaming, are radically different from the Western concept of creation as a historical event. The Dreamtime is both past and present, both event and eternal reality. The nature of Dreamtime. The Dreamtime isn't a single myth, but thousands of interconnected stories, varying across hundreds of Aboriginal nations. Yet certain patterns emerge. Before the Dreamtime, the Earth was a featureless plain, flat, empty, dark. Beneath this surface slept the ancestors, beings of immense power who existed before time, before form. These ancestors awoke and broke through the Earth's crust, emerging into the world. As they traveled across the land, they created everything through their actions and songs. The ancestor beings. The ancestors took many forms. The rainbow serpent, who carved out rivers and water holes as she slithered across the land. The seven sisters, who fled across the sky pursued by a lustful male, creating the Pleiades. Baim, the sky father, who created mountains, rivers, and the first humans. The Wawilak sisters, who named all the plants and animals. The Jangawal, who planted their digging sticks, and from the holes emerged the first people. Each ancestor had their own journey, their own story, their own creative acts. Creation through song. Here's the revolutionary concept. The ancestors created through song. As they walked, they sang, and their songs brought the world into being. Every mountain, river, rock formation, water hole, and tree came into existence because an ancestor sang it into being. The landscape is literally solidified song. These songs became songlines, invisible pathways crisscrossing Australia, connecting sacred sites, telling the story of creation. To know the song is to know the country, to walk the land properly, to understand the relationship between all things. The continuing creation. Crucially, the Dreamtime didn't end. It continues. Through ceremony, through song, through ritual, Aboriginal people participate in creation. They don't just remember the Dreamtime, they enact it, renew it, keep it alive. Every ceremony recreates the ancestral journey. Every song maintains the world's existence. Creation is an ongoing process requiring human participation. When an initiated person sings the songs while traveling the song lines, they're not just commemorating past events, they're actively creating the world in the present moment. The law and the land. From the dream time came the law, the complex system of relationships, obligations, and protocols that govern Aboriginal life. This law isn't human-made. It's embedded in the landscape itself, given by the ancestors. The land isn't property to be owned, it's family, its identity, its story. Aboriginal people don't say they own the land owns them. They belong to country, and country belongs to them in a reciprocal relationship. Different groups are custodians of different songlines, different dreaming tracks. This creates a sophisticated system of custodianship, where knowledge and responsibility are distributed across the continent. What Dreamtime reveals. Aboriginal Dreamtime reveals a worldview profoundly different from Western thought. First, creation isn't finished. It's an ongoing process that requires human participation. We don't just live in a created world. We're actively creating it through our songs, ceremonies, and proper relationship with the land. Second, time is nonlinear. Past, present, and future coexist in the dream time. The ancestors are both long ago and right now, both historical and eternal. Third, the land is sacred text. The landscape itself is a library containing all knowledge, all law, all story. To read the land is to understand creation. Fourth, knowledge is located and distributed. Different people know different parts of the whole story. Complete understanding requires community, relationship, proper sharing of knowledge across boundaries. Fifth, sound and song are creative forces. Like the Mande understanding of the word, Aboriginal culture sees sound as fundamentally creative. But here, it's the specific melodies and rhythms of place that bring reality into being. The primordial water. Across cultures and continents, one element appears again and again: water. But this isn't ordinary water, it's primordial, cosmic, pregnant with potential. In Mesopotamia, Apsu and Tiamat, fresh and salt water mingling. In Egypt, Nun, the dark, still, infinite ocean from which the first mound emerges. In Hindu tradition, the cosmic ocean on which Vishnu sleeps, from whose navel grows the lotus containing Brahma the creator. In Chinese myth, the waters of chaos from which Pan-gu emerges from the cosmic egg. In Maori tradition, the primal parents separated from watery embrace. Why water? Because water is fundamental to life. Every ancient culture knew this. Water is transformative, it's liquid, solid, gas. It's destructive and life-giving. It takes the shape of whatever contains it, pure potential waiting for form. Water represents the unmanifest, the undefined, the matrix of possibilities from which differentiated reality emerges. The cosmic egg. Another recurring motif is the cosmic egg. The universe begins as an egg containing all potential, which then breaks open or is split apart to create differentiation. In Chinese mythology, Pan-gu emerges from the cosmic egg after 18,000 years. When he dies, his body becomes the world. In Hindu tradition, The Agarbha, the golden egg floating on the cosmic waters, splits to form heaven and earth. In Finnish Kalevala, a duck lays eggs on the knee of the primordial mother. The eggs fall, break, and their pieces become the earth, sky, sun, and moon. In Orphic Greek tradition, the cosmic egg created by time gives birth to Phanes, the primordial deity of procreation. The egg symbolizes several things: the self-contained wholeness of potentiality, the protective shell separating inside from outside, and the necessary breaking required for birth. Creation requires destruction of previous unity. The primordial giant or being. Many myths feature a cosmic giant whose body becomes the world. Norse, Ymir the frost giant, dismembered to create earth, sea, sky. Chinese, Pan Gu, whose body parts become geographic features. Vedic, Purusha, the cosmic man sacrificed and divided to create the world and social castes. Babylonian, Tiamat's body split to create heaven and earth. This motif suggests several ideas. The universe is organic, living, interconnected. There's unity underlying apparent diversity. Everything comes from one source. Creation requires sacrifice. The original unity must be broken for multiplicity to exist. Divine craftsmen and artisans. Many traditions feature creator gods who are craftsmen, artisans, smiths. Egyptian, Ta, who creates through thought and word like a master craftsman. Greek Hephaestus, the divine blacksmith. West African, the blacksmith god who maintains creation through rhythm. Finnish, Ilmarinen, who forges the dome of heaven and later the Sampo, a magical mill. Scandinavian, the dwarves, master craftsmen who forge treasures for gods. This reflects the human understanding that creation requires skill, knowledge, and technique. The universe isn't just willed into existence, it's crafted with divine artistry. This honors human creativity and craftsmanship as participation in divine activity. Sound, speech, and song. Multiple traditions recognize sound as creative power. Hindu, Om, the primordial sound from which everything emerges. Biblical, in the beginning was the Word. Egyptian, Ta creates through speech. Monde, the cosmic vibration of the blacksmith's hammer. Aboriginal, the songlines that create and maintain the landscape. This recognizes something profound. Sound is vibration, and vibration is fundamental to reality. Modern physics confirms that at quantum levels, reality is vibrating strings, frequencies, waves. Ancient peoples intuited that reality might be fundamentally resonant, that the universe might be, in some sense, singing itself into being. Chaos and order. Nearly every creation myth involves the establishment of order from chaos. Mesopotamian, Marduk defeats chaotic Tiamat, creates ordered cosmos. Egyptian, Ma'at, order, must constantly be maintained against Isfit chaos. Greek, Zeus defeats the Titans and establishes Olympian order. Norse, the gods create ordered cosmos from Ginnungagap's chaos, but Ragnarok will return everything to chaos. Chinese, Pan Gu separates the chaos into light, yang heaven and heavy yin earth. This universal theme reflects human experience. We live constantly between order and chaos. Civilization is the establishment of order, but chaos always threatens. Creation is ongoing work, not a finished product. The purpose of humanity. Different myths give humans different purposes. Mesopotamian, to serve the gods, free them from labor. Mayan, to remember and honor the gods, keep the sacred calendar. Egyptian, to maintain Maat through proper living. Norse, to fight bravely, earn a place in Valhalla for the final battle. Aboriginal, to maintain the songlines, keep the dream time alive through ceremony. These purposes reflect what each society valued most, but they share a common thread. Humans aren't accidents or afterthoughts. We have a role in cosmic maintenance. We're participants, not just spectators. What these myths reveal about human understanding. These creation myths, in all their diversity, reveal several profound truths about human consciousness. The universal question. Every culture, everywhere, always has asked, where did this all come from? This question seems hardwired into human consciousness. We're the animal that asks why, and how, and where from. This suggests that meaning-making is fundamental to being human. We don't just experience reality. We need to understand it, contextualize it, create narratives that explain our place in the cosmos. The power of story. These aren't philosophical treatises or scientific papers, they're stories. Narrative is how humans process and transmit information. We think in stories, remember in stories, teach through stories. The creation myths that survived millennia did so because they were compelling narratives that captured imagination, emotion, and attention. They were told around fires, painted on cave walls, carved in stone, passed from generation to generation. The integration of observation and imagination. These myths blend careful observation of nature with creative imagination. Ancient peoples watched the sun rise daily, saw seeds grow into plants, observed animals giving birth, experienced storms and floods and drought. Their creation myths wove these observations into grand narratives. The Egyptian solar cycle reflected the actual sun's daily journey. The Mesopotamian flood myths reflected real devastating floods. The Aboriginal songlines mapped actual geography. Myth isn't primitive science. It's sophisticated integration of observation, philosophy, ethics, and cosmology into meaningful narrative. How these stories continue to shape identity. These ancient myths aren't dead curiosities. They remain living traditions for millions of people. Cultural continuity. For Aboriginal Australians, the Dreamtime isn't ancient history, it's present reality. Ceremonies continue to enact creation. Songlines continue to guide travel. The law continues to govern relationships. For Hindu practitioners, the cosmic cycles of creation and destruction aren't metaphors. They're the actual structure of reality. Brahma creates, Vishnu preserves, Shiva destroys, and the cycle continues. For many West Africans, the blacksmith retains special status because of his connection to the Creator's work. The griot remains powerful because of the creative power of speech. Resistance to colonialism. Many indigenous peoples have fought to preserve their creation stories against colonial suppression. These myths aren't just quaint folklore. They're fundamental to identity, law, and relationship with land. When colonizers tried to erase indigenous creation stories and replace them with Genesis, they weren't just changing religion, they were attempting to sever people from their land, their law, their identity. The preservation and revitalization of indigenous creation myths is an act of cultural survival and resistance. Modern reinterpretation. Even in secular contexts, these myths continue to inspire. Artists draw on creation myths for novels, films, and visual art. Neil Gaiman's American Gods, Hayao Miyazaki's films, N.K. Jemison's Broken Earth trilogy, all draw deeply from diverse creation mythologies. Psychologists like Carl Jung saw universal archetypes in creation myths, patterns of the collective unconscious that reveal deep truths about the human psyche. Environmentalists find in indigenous creation myths a model of relationship with nature absent from Western thought. Not dominion over creation, but participation in creation. The wisdom embedded in diversity. The existence of thousands of creation myths isn't a problem to be solved by finding the right one. The diversity itself is the wisdom. Multiple ways of knowing. Each myth represents a valid way of understanding reality. Scientific cosmology tells us about the Big Bang, cosmic inflation, stellar nucleosynthesis, but it doesn't tell us about meaning, purpose, or how to live. Creation myths address different questions, not just how but why, not just mechanism but meaning, not just origin but purpose. A Lakota elder once said, "The white man asks, how does this work? The Indian asks, what does this mean?" Both questions are valid. Both kinds of knowledge matter. Complementary perspectives. The Norse saw creation as temporary, doomed to Ragnarok. The Egyptians saw it as daily renewal, cyclical. The Aboriginals see it as ongoing, participatory. The Hindus see it as one breath of Brahma among infinite breaths. Are these contradictory? Only if we demand that myth operate like science, with only one correct answer. But myth operates in the realm of meaning, where multiple perspectives can all be true simultaneously. A mountain can be a geological formation, science. The body of a slain giant, Norse myth. A songline marker, Aboriginal myth. The dwelling place of God, various myths. A sacred site, spiritual tradition. A climbing challenge, human adventure. All true, none contradictory. Each reveals a different dimension of relationship with that mountain. Ecological wisdom. Many indigenous creation myths encode sophisticated ecological knowledge. The Aboriginal songlines map water sources, seasonal changes, animal migrations, plant locations, survival information encoded in sacred narrative. The Mayan calendar systems, rooted in creation mythology, tracked astronomical cycles with remarkable precision. enabling sophisticated agriculture. The Pacific Islander navigation myths encode ocean current information, star positions, weather patterns knowledge that enabled crossing vast oceanic distances. These myths aren't pre-scientific. They're differently scientific, integrating empirical observation with meaning-making in ways Western science has historically separated. The human need for origin stories. Why do we need creation myths at all? Identity and belonging. Creation myths tell us not just where the world came from, but where we came from. They establish identity. Are we made from corn, from clay, from a god's breath, from sound and song? This isn't trivial. Our origin story shapes how we see ourselves. If we're made in the image of God, we have inherent dignity. If we're made from corn, we're interconnected with that plant in a sacred relationship. If we're sung into being, we participate in ongoing creation through our own songs. Moral framework. Creation myths establish what's valuable, what's proper, what's our responsibility. If humanity exists to serve the gods, Mesopotamian, then temple service and ritual are central to proper living. If we exist to maintain Mad, Egyptian, then truth, justice, and balance become moral imperatives. If we exist to maintain songlines, Aboriginal, then proper relationship with country becomes sacred duty. The creation story isn't separate from ethics. It establishes the ethical foundation. Dealing with suffering. Many creation myths address the problem of evil, suffering, and imperfection. The Norse explained suffering through the chaos order tension, and the doom of Ragnarok struggle is built into existence. The Mande explained imperfection through Pemba's premature emergence, chaos, entered creation through rebellion. The Gnostic myths explained suffering through creation by a flawed demiurge. The material world is inherently imperfect. These narratives don't eliminate suffering, but provide frameworks for understanding and enduring it. Connection to the sacred. Creation myths establish connection between the mundane and the sacred. The ground you walk on isn't just dirt. It's Ymir's flesh, or Tiamat's body, or the place where the ancestor walked and sang. This re-enchants reality. Everything becomes potentially sacred, meaningful, connected to the great story of existence. In our modern secular age, many feel disconnected, alienated, lost in a meaningless universe. Creation myths offer an antidote, a sense that we're part of something vast, ancient, and meaningful. The crisis of meaning. Modern science has given us an extraordinary understanding of cosmic origins. We know about the Big Bang 13.8 billion years ago, stellar nucleosynthesis, planetary formation, abiogenesis, evolution. This knowledge is magnificent, but it's also created what some philosophers call the crisis of meaning. If the universe is just atoms in void, obeying impersonal physical laws, where does meaning come from? If we're just evolutionary accidents on a random planet, what's our purpose? If consciousness is just neurons firing, what makes us special? Many people feel unmoored, adrift in a cosmos that science describes with precision, but doesn't imbue with purpose. The return to myth. Interestingly, we're seeing a resurgence of interest in creation myths, not as literal truth but as sources of meaning. Pop culture mythology. Marvel's Thor films brought Norse mythology to mainstream audiences. Mona shared Polynesian creation myths. Black Panther drew on African cosmologies. These aren't just entertainment, they're reintroducing mythological thinking to generations raised on purely secular narratives. Video games like God of War, Assassin's Creed, and Akami immerse players in mythological worlds, making ancient cosmologies experientially accessible. Neo-pagan revival. Movements like Asatru, Norse paganism, Druidry, and various neo-pagan traditions are reconstructing ancient religious practices, including engagement with creation myths as living spirituality. For practitioners, these aren't historical curiosities but actual spiritual realities. Odin's sacrifice on Yggdrasil, the cycles of the Dagda, the descent of Inanna, these become frameworks for spiritual practice and self-understanding. Indigenous revival. Worldwide, indigenous peoples are reclaiming their creation stories from colonial suppression. This isn't nostalgia, it's cultural survival and renewal. In New Zealand, Maori creation myths, like the separation of Ranginui and Papatuanuku, are taught in schools alongside Western science. In Canada, First Nations creation stories are being incorporated into curricula. In Australia, Aboriginal Dreamtime stories are recognized as sophisticated knowledge systems. This revival recognizes that indigenous creation myths contain not just spiritual truth, but ecological wisdom, social structures, and ways of knowing that mainstream culture desperately needs. Mythic thinking in science communication. Interestingly, even scientists increasingly use mythic language to communicate cosmology. Carl Sagan spoke of star stuff and the cosmos awakening to itself, mythic, poetic language. Neil deGrasse Tyson uses storytelling techniques, narrative arcs, and emotional resonance to communicate science. The Hadron Collider was searching for the God particle, Higgs boson, explicitly mythic language for scientific reality. This suggests that even in scientific contexts, we need story, metaphor, and meaning-making, not just data. Can science and myth coexist? The old model was warfare. Science represents truth, myth represents primitive ignorance. As science advances, myth retreats. But a more sophisticated understanding recognizes different kinds of truth. Scientific truth, mechanism, causation, prediction. How does it work? Mythic truth, meaning, purpose, value. What does it mean? How should we live? These aren't competing, they're complementary. You can understand evolution scientifically and believe you're made in the image of God. These address different questions. You can understand geology and see mountains as sacred. These aren't contradictory unless you demand that sacred means scientifically different. You can understand neuroscience and believe consciousness is spiritually significant. Knowing how neurons work doesn't eliminate meaning. The key is understanding what kind of question you're asking and choosing the appropriate tool. A hammer is useless for screwing in a bolt. Science is the wrong tool for questions of meaning and purpose. Myth is the wrong tool for predicting planetary orbits. But both are indispensable. What we've lost and what we might regain. Modern Western culture, in embracing scientific materialism, has gained much but also lost much. What we've lost: enchantment, the sense that reality is alive, meaningful, sacred. Embeddedness, the feeling of belonging to a cosmic story. Purpose, a clear sense of why we exist and what we're for. Reciprocity, understanding our relationship with nature as mutual obligation. Holism, integration of knowledge, ethics, spirituality, and daily life. What creation myths might restore. Wonder, reality as miraculous, not mundane. Responsibility, we're participants in creation, not just observers. Diversity, multiple valid ways of knowing and being. Connection, everything related to everything else. Meaning, life embedded in grand narrative, not random chaos. We don't need to choose between scientific and mythic understanding. We need both. We need to know how stars form and to feel wonder at their beauty. We need to understand evolution and to feel connected to all life. We need to measure time precisely and to mark it with meaningful ritual. Conclusion: the unfinished story. The creation myth you're living. Here's a thought to leave you with. You are currently living within a creation myth, whether you realize it or not. Maybe it's the myth of progress. Humanity rising from ignorance to enlightenment, from savagery to civilization, ever upward. Maybe it's the myth of the fall. We once lived in harmony with nature, but technology, capitalism, modernity has corrupted us. Maybe it's the myth of meaninglessness. The universe is random, purposeless, and our existence is a cosmic accident. Maybe it's the myth of awakening. Consciousness is the universe becoming aware of itself, and we're on the verge of transformation. These are all creation myths, grand narratives that explain where we came from, why we're here, and where we're going. They shape how you vote, what you value, how you treat others, what you consider progress or decline. The question isn't whether you have a creation myth. The question is, are you conscious of which myth you're living, and is it serving you well? The invitation to wonder. The ancient creation myths we've explored today, from Mesopotamian battles to Aboriginal songlines, from Norse giants to Mayan corn people, invite us into wonder. Wonder at the diversity of human imagination. Wonder at how different peoples made sense of the same fundamental mysteries. Wonder at the beauty, strangeness, and profundity of these narratives. But more than that, they invite us to recognize that meaning-making is fundamental to being human. We are the animal that tells stories about ourselves. We are the species that looks at the stars and asks not just, what are they? But what do they mean? The ongoing creation. Perhaps the most profound insight from these diverse myths is this: creation isn't finished. The Egyptians knew this. Ra is reborn every morning. The Aboriginal Australians know this. The dream time continues. and we maintain it through song. The Hindus know this Brahma breathes out universes in endless cycles. We aren't just products of creation. We're participants in creation. Every choice we make, every story we tell, every relationship we build, every act of creativity, every moment of consciousness, all of this participates in the ongoing creation of reality. The universe isn't a finished product handed to us. It's an ongoing process we're part of. Your role in the story. So here's my final thought. What creation story will you tell? What story will you live? Not necessarily a cosmic story about how the universe began, but your personal creation story. The story of how you came to be who you are. The story of what you're creating with your life. The story of what meaning you're making from existence. Because here's the truth the ancient myths teach. We are all creators. We create meaning, create relationships, create beauty, create change. We speak words that bring new realities into being. We sing songs that shape the landscape of human experience. We tell stories that become the myths of future generations. You are not just a passive recipient of a created world. You are actively creating the world every day through your choices, your actions, your stories, your consciousness. The ancient Egyptians understood that creation requires daily maintenance. The Aboriginal Australians understand that we create through song. The Mande people understand that speech is creative power. What will you create? What will you sing into being? What story will you tell? Final words. The creation myths we've explored today are not dead relics of primitive thinking. They're living wisdom traditions that offer profound insights into the human condition. They teach us that diversity of perspective enriches understanding. Meaning and mechanism are both necessary. We are interconnected with all existence. Creation is ongoing, and we participate in it. Story and symbols speak truths that pure logic cannot capture. As we face the challenges of the 21st century, climate change, technological disruption, social fragmentation, existential questions about AI and consciousness, perhaps we need the wisdom of these ancient stories more than ever. Not as replacements for science, but as complements to it. Not as literal truth, but as profound truth. Not as the only stories, but as essential stories. Thank you for joining me on this journey through forgotten creation myths. May you see the world with new eyes. May you recognize the stories you're living. And may you create with wisdom, wonder, and courage. The story continues, and you're writing it. If you enjoyed this exploration of forgotten creation myths, check out our video on related topic. And let me know in the comments, what creation myth speaks most deeply to you? What stories do you wish more people knew about? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into human culture, mythology, and the stories that shape our world.